Yo, what's going on, everybody? Welcome in for another episode here. This is the solo hardcore group Iron. I am playing a four-man team size for myself, so let's dive right into what we are working on today here. I had this plan in the back of my mind because after doing 99 Slayer on 4 accounts, I had like something between 60 to 70 Skatizo totems. Um, and I wanted to do those at some point because they can drop like 300, I don't know, mahogany planks or anglerfish, like hundreds of these like really high tier supplies that would be useful to just, you know, cash out on all those totems. It's just loot that's waiting to be had. So I was like, well, if I'm gonna be just skipping a bunch of tasks for black demons or greater demons, I may as well go to Konar because I think she could then just assign greater demons or black demons in the catacombs, and that would apply. And I would have the chance at getting Hydras and be able to store the Hydra task at a very minimum. Ended up just landing directly on the Hydra task fairly quick. Each of these accounts are eligible, obviously, with 99 to get Hydras. It's a level 95 Slayer monster, and I'd really need to do Hydra for one claw at least, and hopefully the leather. The leather is a little bit more common, it's about twice as common. I believe it's a 1 in 500 rate for the leather, which makes ferocious gloves, which are best in slot melee gloves. However, they do lose the uniqueness of Barrow gloves, where Barrow's gloves kind of operate on all three styles. They have positive bonuses for melee, ranged, and magic. So I will lose that sort of tribrid effect that Barrow's gloves have in working for multiple styles, but you have the Tormented Bracelet for mage, and you use Barrow's gloves for ranged, and then obviously, unless you had Zerite bracelet or bracers, because I cannot really complete necks, but basically, then ferocious gloves would be your best in slot melee. So for raids and such, you could just bring all three types of gloves, and that would be a nice clean switch for all styles. So the Hydra Claw upgrade, however, is an attachment to the Hosta, and I actually use a Hosta at Chambers of Xeric still. I use it basically at most of the raids, and attaching the claw to it upgrades it into the Dragon Hunter Lance, and the Lance is actually a huge upgrade. I think you get like 7 or 8 max hits towards dragons, which is considered what Ulm is in the raid. So the Ulm fight, it will apply to him, and it still has good stats. I think you only lose 5 melee strength using a lance instead of an actual Hosta. So it's basically like a Hosta with a tiny bit of strength bonus loss. Um, so it's going to be a huge upgrade before I return to Chambers of Xeric. Now there's this whole debacle in before doing Hydra, so I got Rigor on one account. Like I got one dex scroll and I used it on my other account that's woodcutting at the moment. That's going to be my main raiding account, so this account unfortunately doesn't have Rigor, and I don't even have the Ava's Assembler, which is the Vorkath head uh, Dragon Slayer 2 backpack upgrade. It's really nice because it saves like more darts than the normal Avas, and it has a little bit of better bonuses like ranged accuracy and a couple range strength. So unfortunately, I won't be doing Hydra on that account as of yet, but I don't think I'll be doing all of my Hydra on this account, but I was able to just trade over the Anguish, Full Armadillo, and the Archer's Ring with the Blowpipe. I'm currently sinking a lot of Amethyst darts, but they did actually buff Amethyst, so um, AFK mining Amethyst on the side is going to be a lot more viable. currently I'm set up doing some Zoro scale fishing because lo and behold, I'm going to be using a lot of scales doing these Hydra tasks. So I want to keep up with that, and then another account will probably go mine amethyst since I will need to replenish my dart stack. So let's actually go and start working on Hydra. That's enough of an intro for now. So yeah, this is the Hydra. I have a few marked tiles in here that are going to assist in my kill here. So I can summon a Thrall. I'm bringing souls and deaths as well in my room pouch to use Death's Charge because I want to actually Bandit's Godsword spec every kill here. So basically, you just switch between magic and range prayer over and over. He actually does a nice little animation showing that he's switching for you, and I kind of follow my little schematic of marked tiles around the room. These tiles will help me lure the Hydra. So the way the boss works is you have to kind of lure him over these vents that are located around the room, and the different colored ones based on what color he currently is. It's always in the same order though. You start with red, then you move on to the green, and then you move him to the blue finally. And he does a couple of special attacks as well, so you have to make sure you're avoiding the special attacks. His green phase, he throws poison out. The blue phase, he throws the electricity out, and then the red phase, he's going to throw fire out. So basically, yeah, as long as I have him highlighted here with his tile that he exists on, as long as that even a tiny little corner of this light blue hovers over the center of event, then it will connect and lower his defenses. So okay, and then finally you get to the last phase where he switches attacks every single hit instead of doing 3 and swapping. Then he lobs poison after his third attack every time without fail. And you just slowly whittle the boss down. The final phase is the only one where you don't have to lure him on event. He's just naturally already killable. If you do not lure him on event, you can do chip damage to him, but I heavily recommend against just trying to brute force that. You will do only like 4s and 5s at a maximum. So you definitely want to lower his defense with the vents. Otherwise, you do like 10% of your maxed hit. So I'm actually bringing a BGS as well. I just started doing this. So let's start off the kill with a big Godsword spec. I'm bringing a Super Combat just so I can also do that. And actually have a Blood Fury as well. Oh, looks like a huge 0 there. So that's 60. That's going to help lower his defense. And with Death's Charge, I can probably get like 1 spec off every single kill, basically, if I, with natural regen and then gaining 15% back with Death's Charge. Hopefully I can sustain BGS specs. So, okay, lured him to the next vent. And then he goes above his head, he says Rarg whenever you actually successfully hit him with the vent system and lowers defense. As well as in the chat. The chat's a huge indicator of what's going on with the fight. The chat will spam you with something, a message similar to like the Hydra's defense. Yeah, right there. So before the vent actually hit him on the new phase change, it says the Hydra's defense partially absorbs your attack. It will say that like every 2 seconds if you hadn't lowered his defense. So yeah, just keep an eye out for your XP drops that are happening. And if you never get like a super high XP drop, well, it's probably because you never lowered his defenses on the vent system. and you basically then will be doing very little damage. So make sure you lower him to the vents in a rotation. It's always the same order, so yeah, just keep that in mind. Looks like he can throw the acid in a larger array, and looks like that's the one thing I forgot was an anti-poison. So I usually bring an anti-venom, and yeah, we're just gonna have to tank through this poison for a little while, but yeah, hopefully it whittles away. I usually bring an anti-venom, which acts as a 12-minute antidote. So, but yeah, we are gonna be using the BGS. It's actually nice. I'm actually using my Blood Fury instead of a Torture because um, in the rare chance that it actually procs here on this big hit, that's going to be a nice little heal. But yeah, pretty low accuracy with wearing Armadillo and such. I don't think it's going to be worth it to bring like a full melee swap. I'm just bringing the amulet, and my Barrow's gloves are already a good glove swap, so yeah, we'll see how it works. I just started bringing it. I think SGS is also really, really helpful here because it'll heal you and give you prayer back. So I've used SGS here before and I really enjoyed it, so I'd probably recommend SGS. I guess technically if you're blowpiping, the BGS is really helpful. So it does just come down to your preference. If you do lower his defense, then blowpipe hits a lot better. So the blowpipe was nerfed a couple years back. It used to just be the be-all end-all item for Ironman. It was just like an insanely high DPS weapon, very cheap, very easy to obtain, and they heavily nerfed it. They nerfed all the darts, they nerfed its accuracy, so it's a lot less viable of an option for like every range scenario. However, it is still one of the best ones for this boss in particular. It's a huge dart and scale sink, so you do have to watch out. You will be using a ton of supplies here. But yeah, this is an extremely dangerous boss, especially being a hardcore. So you do have to pay attention. This last phase can definitely catch you off guard. I have my teleports ready to go in the bottom left of my inventory. I literally just had to teleport out last trip because I got a little bit off cycle and ended up taking a hit on the red phase twice in a row and then just didn't have any food to recover it, so I was just like, you know what, I'm just clicking my telly. I was out of food anyway. Did a nice trip, so yeah, I will try to go over another thing involved in this fight, which is the flame wall skip or the flame skip. This flame happens when he's in his red phase, and he walks to the center of the room and he summons fire that will actually follow you around the room. But if you notice, I have been just avoiding it by skipping that special. There's a certain spot you can stand on and quickly dodge the flame, and it kind of like interrupts the flame chasing you entirely, and then it just no longer chases you, so it kind of solves that entire special attack right away for you. So heavily recommend that. Otherwise you're gonna have to click around the room and constantly keep moving around because that flame will chase you for a solid 10 to 15 seconds, and every time you let it catch up to you, it will basically burn you for a chunk of damage and leave a lingering burn that does damage over time, like poison. So you're going to take a ton of damage if you do not flame skip properly. So he's about to turn into the red phase here, so we'll kind of go over what we want to do here for the flame skip. So I move into position here. I like to stand one south of the blue vent. So I have him lured on the blue vent so that it lowers his defenses. And then for the flame skip in preparation, I stand here so I can keep attacking him. And then I want to move directly 2 tiles east to this location. And then when he throws out his third set of fire, so he throws 2 sets of fire, one north and then one to his side. And then when he throws his third set of fire, it's going to be the one that follows you. That is when you run to the tile that I was then just standing on, so you could mark those. It's going to be then one southwest of where I had originally marked and was standing waiting. So yeah, it easily dodges the flame attack entirely, so heavily recommend learning this entirely, and you'll have no trouble with this boss. Basically, I used to not know about that. Well, a lot of people used to do this boss and not know about it, and yeah, the way you would have to like, you know, if you have a blowpipe, you're attacking at 2 tick intervals, so you'd have to like click him, move, click him, move, click him, move, just every 2 ticks to keep up your DPS. And yeah, it was pretty ridiculous to do that. So yeah, we will be doing another trip, and I will remember to bring the anti-venom because this poison is definitely gonna reduce this trip's effectiveness. However, I do still have some food, and I will just tough it out for right now. Summon thralls. Alks are extremely good here because he drops a ton of alks. So if you don't want to use thralls, definitely use just high alks. I actually think it's almost worth it to just do high alks instead of thralls, simply because if you sesh out like a huge trip, you're going to have so many alkables on the ground, and I haven't really been getting those alkables yet. He's been nice and been dropping me like noted stacks, like herbs and coins. However, he will drop a ton of like rune, mystic, these black DI bodies, and just like dragon weaponry. The boss absolutely just floods you with tons of GP drops, so yeah, alks are super nice. Typically you'll summon a second thrall about halfway, like right around this blue phase ending. So I summon a second thrall, and yeah, it should last to the end of the kill. It's about 2 minutes per kill with a blowpipe. If you have a twisted bow, it absolutely shreds this boss. Definitely use your T-bow if you have one. Bofa is also very powerful. So yeah, I would obviously use my Bofa if I had one. However, when I get a Bofa, it will be on a different account, so probably won't even be able to use it across the board because you need Song of the Elves completed, and you can't trade it when it's corrupt or have any charges in general, so it's not going to be an item that I can easily share across all 4 of my accounts. So I will be, yeah, let's just tele out. Let's go to bank. He can drop like he just dropped here. Super restores, range pots, all that good stuff. Those are just, and then earlier he dropped sharks. So, you know, he can kind of just sustain your entire trip for you as long as you don't make mistakes. You take very little damage. You just kind of get enough prayer drops, and he'll actually drop you range pots with the super restores, so you can keep boosting your range. I pretty much pot like almost every single kill. Every 4 or 5 levels that it drops, I will repot. So yeah, let's pull out a full new inventory here. Let's bring the anti-venom for that. Started bringing my super combat now that I'm speccing with the BGS. Hit pretty big on that one kill, so hopefully it starts hitting. And then just like a ton of prayer. You know, make sure that you bring enough food though as well, because if he doesn't drop you food, then you end up just having like 20 prey pots. So yeah, definitely bring like a mix of both. Go into the Mount Krelm dungeon, and it's straight north. To the west, there's the worms. I'm sure everyone knows about the worms because those are a very common Slayer task. I usually pre-angler too before running in case these guys hit me. But it looks like they're humble here. And yeah, you can just jump right in. It's not that far from a bank, so banking's not the end of the world. So let's throw on the BGS here. So I always lure him to my first spot. Well, that was not a very humble hit. Yeah, the first attack when you start the fight is actually random because I don't know if he's maging or ranging yet when he just spawned or when I just enter the room. So you do have to kind of gamble there, 50-50. I chose wrong and I got hit like 20 some damage, so it's horribly unfortunate. But usually if you guess correctly, then you literally can do the entire fight without taking damage. That's honestly why I didn't even consider bringing the BGS yet, because that means that I can't spec now with blowpipe, which I had been doing, and the blowpipe heals me a lot of that initial damage that I take when I have to guess what style he's using currently. So yeah, not having access to the heals from the blowpipe means that I'm a little bit lower on food, but with the shark drops that he does, hopefully we can sustain that. There's another sort of skip for one of his special attacks there that I'm doing, and I will go into detail. That's the electric skip, and it's something that has been known about for a very long time. I think like when Wooks started originally doing Hydra, go figure, Wooks figures out like everything important with the game, and he found out that if you hide in that corner so that only one of the electricity things reaches you, that you can step like diagonally towards it when it's 2 tiles away, and then again immediately back to the wall. So it's a 2-step movement, back-to-back movements, can't have any downtime in between. And that charge just too late, unfortunate. And I will go over how to pull it off a little bit in better detail as it's occurring. So yeah, tons of rune stacks. There's the food drop, so as I use food, I can replenish my inventory with food just for safety, just have backup in case I make a mistake and I take a hit. You want to re-heal that up right away because this boss can hit like 70s, especially in that final phase. Yeah, actually the BGS is kind of going off, and actually the Blood Fury procced on that hit, so I'm literally full HP, and I just took like 20 some damage, so definitely enjoying. So actually, yeah, that kind of replaces the blowpipe spec entirely because I was specking with the blowpipe for that small bit of healing, but it's very inaccurate. I can accidentally hit a 0 or randomly hit zeros, so it's not guaranteed that the blowpipe's going to heal you. And even if you do hit, it can hit very low, which doesn't heal very much. So, yeah, that actually Blood Fury proccing there was pretty nice. I have thousands of charges on this Blood Fury, so not going to run out anytime soon for just this one BGS swing per kill. So that'll be nice to have a good use for Blood Furies and such. So yeah, I'm gonna appreciate those huge hits proccing a heal for sure. And yeah, this is a super fast kill because his defense is low, so I'm just shredding with the blowpipe. Might even be a PB. Don't really know. Oh, yep, I missed that, but that was a humble low hit. So the last phase also always swaps to whichever style he didn't use last. So whatever the last projectile that the red one used, he will always be using a different one. Okay, I did remember discharge there. Yeah, so he starts with the complete opposite that he had just done with his red phase when he turns into the final form. So you always start opposite, and then it just alternates back and forth. It's literally completely, what I guess people call the Jad phase, where it's going to guaranteed swap back and forth, similar to how the Zora Jad phase swaps back and forth. Okay. Even if the BGS hits little, I'm just going to leave it at 1 because at that 1 spec because I want 1 spec per kill. And yeah, even though that was only a 6, I guess it's still something. It's not going to be worth just sending another one because then I won't have one for next kill, so makes no difference to double spec now versus next kill. And yeah, let's go over the electric skip here. So the electric skip happens, so once he's in the blue phase, you need to let the green poison lower his defense. So okay, once he's done that, I can move him off of the green because he's already been hit by the chemicals that lower his defense. And then I want to make my way into the direct corner here next to this giant blue encasing, and as the lightning approaches 2 tiles away, so I'll throw up a mark here. I'm going to remove that mark tile there. Oh, gotta watch how he can one-shot you here. So as he reaches this mark tile that I have freshly made there, as the blue electricity that's following you reaches there, then you step out 1 diagonal, and then you step immediately back to the wall, directly to the wall, not diagonal back to the wall. You want to go like laterally to the wall. So, and if you do that correctly, then the electricity kind of glitches out and it follows you temporarily, but then it kind of gets stuck underneath you. So you actually then can't move anymore from that position. So don't move again because it's actually still under you and it will still zap you as soon as you move. So you have to stay put until that phase ends. But typically you don't need to move again, so that's fine. Just stay there until he changes to the red phase. And yeah, that will have successfully skipped the electricity for you. So again, I'll keep pulling it off as you see in the video. A couple kills ago, I literally just forgot to do it entirely, or rather, if you're 1 tick late or early, it's also going to mess up. So wow, very bad hits here with the BGS. So yeah, if you're not completely tick perfect with it, it will mess up. It's pretty easy to get down based on the visual of the lightning approaching. So as the lightning finally reaches a spot that is 2 tiles away from you exactly, that's when you want to start moving. So it's a little bit earlier before it actually reaches you. And yeah, obviously if you let the lightning fully reach you, it will just zap you. If you go too early, then you will have moved into position closer to the lightning too early, and it will hit you early. So it has to be a very, very specific window. Okay, let's see. So here's the lightning coming out, and there it was 2. Yeah, so once it's literally at that 2 tile away mark, that's when you want to click. Like the same instant that you see it reach that 2 tile away is when I click my mouse to move. So then I go 1 diagonal out, which puts me here, and then I go immediately 1 step north back to the wall. Not diagonally back to that same corner. So you stay in the direct corner, and then you go 1 diagonally out, and then 1 directly north. Don't know why. It's some very janky code, but that's how it works. And it's kind of the only way that it works. You do have to forego like a blowpipe hit or two. Oh, gotta watch out. This can definitely one-shot me here. Yeah, he can hit like high 60s, maybe even 70s. So this final phase is very deadly, and his attacks are so much faster. So if you get off beat, get off rhythm, and lose track of which prayer to use, you can just get two-shot in back-to-back missed prayers. Fortunately, I have a lot of food still on this trip, so yeah. Hopefully we get some nice loot here. The normal loot is actually pretty overpowered. I just got 30 noted dragon bones. That's so much prayer. It's a ridiculous amount of prayer. And yeah, he drops 2 Hydra bones every kill, so at the very minimum you can bank some good prayer through that. Turn the spec on there. Okay. Yep. At least that's something. And yeah, obviously his uniques are very sought after for any Ironman. If you have a Zami Hosta or Zami Spear, then all you're missing to make the Dragon Header Lance is the drop from this boss. So that is the most sought after Ironman item because it is extremely powerful against dragons, and there's so many different types of dragons that it can be used at, like Vorkath, Olm, just normal dragons, like any type of blue or metal dragon task for Slayer. Worms, it works on worms, it works on drakes, it works on this, it works on Hydra. The list goes on, and it still is a decent weapon, like stab and crush, just like a Hosta is a versatile weapon for Chambers of Xeric, for example. So pretty much you can use it in replacement of your your Hosta if you use that at Chambers of Xeric. If you use a Fang, if you use a rapier or a tent whip, whatever you're using for your main hand chambers, you can just replace it with the lance because the lance is like the be all end all Chambers of Xeric weapon. It has crush for Tecton, it has stab for Vasa, and then you can just use it as the best in slot melee weapon for Olm's melee hand. So, and then if you have to use it for like the Vanguard room, where the Vanguards you have to melee the Ranger, again it will still hit fairly fine. So it's just the perfect weapon to use at Chambers of Xeric for sure. Okay, finally we got some super restores, so that kind of replenishes some of the prayer that I just kind of consumed on this trip already. So we're back to a nice 7 or so prayer pots. Another big 0. Probably should have potted for this one down to 108 stats. 108 melee stats. Probably worth potting. I'm only bringing 1 super combat though, and the boss won't drop more super combats, so when this 1 potion's out, that's kind of the end of my boosting. But yeah, we'll see how this BGS works out. It's very hit or miss right now. When it noodles, then it doesn't really help at all, but trust me, I've been doing blowpipes specs for a while now, and they frequently will just noodle and hit a 0. So it's not very helpful anyway for healing. So I kind of like this Blood Fury chance to proc. Kind of replaces that heal effect. The blowpipe was probably a little bit more consistent, but again, it can still noodle, and this will lower the defense, which aids in the overall kill speed of the boss. So once I get it down, once I actually start hitting, yeah, hopefully that works out. So another interesting change that happened here with this boss, and it never used to be the case, since its release for a couple years actually. They only recently made this quality of life change. Um, and it's sort of the same thing that they did with demonic gorillas, is that it and actually Hunleaf. So demonic gorillas, this Hydra and Hunleaf are all similar in that they swap between a couple styles back and forth very frequently. So you had to either like count attacks in your head to keep track, or you would get lost and not remember how many it's been since he last swapped and know exactly when to switch over to the next prayer. Um, Hydra is just straight up three back and forth. So, unless it's the final phase, obviously. But basically, they added a small little animation for the Hydra. And what he does is he like kind of flicks his neck back, or all his like Hydra head necks. He kind of like flicks them backwards, and that's like the signal that he's switching styles on you. So I'll try to point it out when it happens here, but yeah, I didn't notice that when I first started my first couple kills here, and then I was like, wait, I think they made that update or something, right? And then I noticed, oh, that's what that little like head flick, so like right there, he just like whipped all of his heads back. It's like a little like head gesture thing, and that just signifies that he's swapped styles on you. So his next attack will be the alternate style. Oh, yeah. So right there actually was the perfect example of you can't always go by it, because if he swaps literally on the same time that you proc his next phase, then the whole like him shedding his skin to a different color kind of overwrites that entire animation, and you'll miss it because it doesn't actually happen. So you still do have to kind of mentally keep track, but in case you do get kind of lost and forget, you can typically just rely on the animation. See right there, he just whipped all of his heads back, and that's like my guarantee signal that, yeah, okay, he swapped. And then I know he just did, so he did 2 mage attacks on this so far, so he stays in cycle even when he does this. So he had 1 more mage attack to go on that red phase, but because the last phase always starts on the opposite style, I know to swap over, starting the final phase, and then now it's just back and forth Jad phase. So it's a very rhythm based boss. Like once you get into the groove of this boss, it is very chill. They are long kills, so doing a couple hundred on your Slayer task from Konar is going to be a massive drain. Like it's probably one of the longest Slayer tasks that exist in the game. So it can be intimidating to do an entire Hydra task. However, I need to do this boss for the drops. I will most likely not do any more Hydra after I finish receiving all the uniques from it. But currently, yep, I'm hunting the Claw, which would upgrade into Lance. And then after that, I will return to Chambers of Zarek, because that is a huge upgrade. Currently, I'm doing this without Rigor, because the Rigor I consumed was on a different account. So my options were to go back to Chambers and without a Lance until I get a duplicate Dex scroll and then toss it on this account. But you got to remember, every time I do that, if I want to do Hydra on any other account, again, I'm back to Eagle Eye. So it would actually take multiple Dex scrolls to get Rigor on all 4 of these accounts to be able to just universally do Hydra. So I decided, look, I'll just use Eagle Eye for right now. It's not that much worse. Obviously, it's significantly worse, but it's it's going to take me dozens and dozens, maybe even 100 raids or more to get a dex scroll, and so I either have to do potentially hundreds of raids without a lance, or do hundreds of Hydra without a dex. So either way, it's just pick my poison. I'd have to do some lengthy amount of PVMing without the optimal setup. So I just decided, look, I'm just gonna work on Hydra with Eagle Eye. I have decent gear, so I'm not too concerned about not having rigor as well. And once I get the lance, then I'll return to Chambers and finally get that dupe dex, and then I can use that on any account I return to Hydra with. Actually, technically, if I had a lance, then I would most likely do melee Hydra, because the lance actually shreds this boss. It's really, really powerful at any dragon-based boss, and this is one of those. So I've actually seen people do melee Hydra, and it is very annoying to do because, as you can see in the fight, I have to drag him around to these vents, and if you're constantly meleeing him, how do you drag him? Because as soon as you step away, you're still within his attack range, so he's not actually going to move right away. So it's an annoying method, but it does work, and it utilizes a ton of run energy, although I don't believe it's not enough run to where you have to actually bring like a stam or anything. But what you would do is you run after every single hit, you have to run 2 tiles away, or, you have to run 2 instances of running away from him, so 4 tiles actually, and that's after literally every single attack that you do with your lance. So it's like every XP drop you do with melee, you have to run 2 ticks away and then 2 ticks back towards him to return to get to your next hit without losing DPS. And then you do that pattern repeatedly, and every single time you do that, one time, oh, see, I moved early there and the lightning hit me. But every single time you run 2 ticks away and then 2 ticks back at him with melee, you move him 1 tile distance. So it's a lot more annoying to actually move him around the room consistently, but you can slowly but surely get him to the vent that you need to for the next phase change, as needed, with just enough time in between. Since you're DPSing him throughout, you need to reach the next vent before you actually deal enough damage to where that vent matters, and only being able to move him 1 tile at a time definitely slows that process down. So the ranged is definitely more chill, but it is possible. I've seen this done, and people actually don't mind this method. It's totally viable, and gets the job done. So if I do get a lance, I might just end up meleeing, because okay, then you're just using a super combat and then your weapon is free, whereas here I am using a ton of darts and scales for the blowpipe. So if you have a T-bow, definitely just use your T-bow, because that's extremely overpowered at this boss. Specifically, it hits like 85s constantly. I've actually done T-bow kills here with just rune arrows, because I was on an Ironman that didn't have access to dragon arrows yet, and or dragon arrows in general, because they're rare. And even just like rune arrows like shreds this boss. So still hitting like 80s with rune arrows basically. Yeah, the T-bow is an insanely powerful weapon at this boss specifically. This boss was kind of released before they kind of shied away from T-bow escape. By T-bow escape, I mean just like every new big boss that they came out with, they just gave it like a ton of high magic level, which makes the blowpipe, or I'm sorry, the T-bow, like absolutely truck on the boss and hit like 80s constantly. So basically, every time a new boss would come out, everyone just, oh, T-bow's best in slot, because it's either the T-bow hits like 80s or it like doesn't hit very high at all, and that's kind of just a setting that Jagex will set in place with like every new boss that comes out. It's like either they're gonna make the T-bow shred it, or the T-bow's not gonna be best in slot. So this was one of those ones where they were like, look, if you own this 1.3 bill weapon, whatever T-bow costs, then you deserve to annihilate it with, high 80s constantly. So whoops. Oh boy, that could have been bad. Got some combo eat off there. Take a high hit from that red phase. Basically, any of his phases, he can hit like high 40s. And if you're not watching, then he gets to his next attack fairly quickly. And if you missed the previous one, you're most likely lost in the cycle and don't know what he's going to shoot next. So I can easily just take you right out of the game. I've seen a lot of people die to this boss. Actually, the farmers, Mr. Mammal was the most recent victim of a hardcore dying to this boss. Got a little bit complacent, reading chat, whatever, and ended up just getting smacked out with like 2 hits back to back. And then you're gone. So it goes quick. It can be that simple. Not paying attention for just a second on this boss can get you out of the cycle, and then what you thought was happening, so you get into such a like rhythm that you're almost like, oh, I know exactly what he's using, so I'm just going to pray range for 3 attacks, and then I can kind of chill. Like right here. So I know he swapped right there. So I know his next 3 attacks are mage. So I can kind of literally just like look away. I know I'm guaranteed safe. Tend to my alts if I was streaming, tend to my Twitch chat, like whatever's going on with what you want to do, right? But if you were like, think that he just swapped, but that was actually his last hit, and so now he's actually doing 3 of the other style, well, now you just kind of locked yourself into this mentality of, I'm safe for 3 hits. You look away. I think that's exactly what Mr. Mamble did, and he ended up getting sort of dropped in just a couple hits. This boss hits extremely high. Oh, see, I accidentally ran away, and luckily I caught myself. I noticed when I ran away too early there, and the lightning actually followed me. So there was a good example of, if you accidentally run away on the blue phase, keep running. Don't like attack back with the blowpipe because you accidentally moved, because then you'll stand still for too long and the lightning will literally instantly hit you. If you accidentally move on the blue phase with the lightning trapped under you from lightning skipping, just keep moving, because you're going to have to run away from that lightning. It will release itself and chase you. So, but you can still avoid it as long as you keep running. So it is still under there. You just have to stay put, and it will stay trapped until the phase changes. Oh, see right there, I started with the wrong one, and then you just start going back and forth with the wrong prayer. Next thing you know, he's hitting you every time for like a 60. Oh, there, I missed another one. My lord. Yeah, he attacks so rapidly here that it's very easy to fall behind in the switches. But luckily we have tons of food on the ground here. Hey, that's what we needed, super restores. We were getting a little low on prayer. Not much, but just a little low, and a range pot there. So let's just decant that range pot. Let's just fresh pot. After a certain amount of like range pots and such that drop, you pretty much can just pot like every single kill. Should actually switch my BGS to strength mode. I think it's going to be more optimal for lowering his defense. Accurate mode on the BGS spec does give you a little bit more chance to hit, but because the BGS is based on the damage hit total that you do, not just accurately landing like a Dragon Warhammer, for example, I think it's always better to just have the BGS on strength mode, because the aggressive attack style always benefits your max hit in a lot more efficient way than that small accuracy bonus that an accurate slash would do. So definitely something to switch when I get a chance. Oh, I gotta watch out here, 'cause a lot of my food is on the ground over there, so as my inventory fills up, start running out of space to hold all that food. And then he turns red phase, and then I can walk away from the lightning that I trapped because it disappears after this phase starts. So yeah, you just have to constantly pay attention. I'm making so many mistakes because I'm recording as well. However, when I'm just like solo seshing this out, I got nothing going on besides paying attention to the boss, maybe watching a stream on the side. Um, it's very easy to just sesh out and stay hyper focused, get all your prayers right, get a ton of KC in, do a nice long trip. This has actually been a nice trip in general. You can't get like 20 plus kills if you keep getting super restore drops, but it's obviously RNG dependent if you get super restores or not. I mean, they're very common drops, so it's actually fairly likely that you keep sustaining off of it, but definitely not as much as you use, unless you're like just prey flicking constantly. Obviously, if you're prey flicking nonstop, then you're most likely saving a ton of prayer that way, so you can sustain some super long trips. But yeah, we'll be seshing out some Hydra for the near future. I really need this lance because that's going to be an insane Chambers of Zarek upgrade to my setup. I will actually love doing Ulm with a lance because it's an extremely powerful weapon. It makes the melee Ulm hand just so much cleaner. Your DPS is absolutely insane with it. I think you hit like 55s, 56s, if I'm not mistaken. Just an insanely high max hit with the lance compared to like just a Hasta. Hasta, sure, it's a great weapon. I think my max hit's like a 47 with the Hasta on stab, but the lance, it will go up to like 55 or 56. Oh god, I moved a little late there. Take a 20 from the lightning. So I have to eat a food just to heal that up, and now I have no more food. My food's on the ground there, so... Oh, was that the last hit? It was. I'm actually going to run and steal Shark before he does the flame phase, because... So what happened there was that was one of those instances where the visual animation for him flicking his heads back and changing style occurred at the same moment that he switched, phases. So I was relying on the visual because I stopped counting. So if you do that and then that happens, then you end up missing that visual cue because it doesn't happen. I wish they would change that and they would be like still show something, but maybe just make him say above his head like raw like the demonic gorillas do. That would be a good fix to that. But then I ended up missing the cue to switch and started taking damage. All my food's on the ground because your inventory gets kind of cluttered up here. So yeah, hopefully we can carry a couple pieces of food here. Have not been getting these Blood Fury procs though, so losing some faith in the whole BGS tactic. But okay, let's switch this to strength mode. Hopefully our hits are a little bit better on strength. Okay, so and I guess something worth mentioning is at the very start of the kill, right? He obviously doesn't have his defense lowered yet until he walks over to the red location, and the acid has to come out of the ground, out of the vent, and then it'll tell you when his defenses are lowered. Until his defenses are lowered, I do think if you BGS spec, even though your damage is heavily reduced, I do think it still lowers his defense by the full amount had your damage not been reduced. So there's a lot of instances in the game where that is sort of the case. Like for example, blowpipe specking. Blowpipe healing on the spec heals exactly half of the damage you do. But if you attack something that has like a natural immunity to ranged or just reduces your max hit in general, I think the game still calculates like what you would have hit, and then it still heals you for that full amount. So I think that's the same instance with the start of the Hydra fight, is when he hasn't had his defense reduced yet. I do believe you can still just send the BGS whenever, so I would just click the boss as soon as he's been fully lowered on the vent. You don't have to wait for the vent to actually hit him. I would just get that attack out of the way. And it should still lower his defense by what you would have hit in full. So, jeez. I had to get the death charge off there, but then it delayed my movement. Took that poison damage, unfortunately. Still got one shark, so could still make a decent trip out of this if I keep going. Let's just decant that, drink that. So yeah, I'll probably leave the recording going until the end of the trip, just to see if we get any cool loot. Small little BGS there, but yeah, the BGS is kind of nice. Just every kill you get like a small defense reduction, and it should help out the blowpipe. It's definitely useful. I've seen people do it even with like the lance, I think. Could be wrong about, well, see, if you're using a lance, then yeah, you may as well BGS spec because you're so likely to hit being in a full melee kit already. So my circumstance is I'm ranging the boss, so I'm actually wearing like full range gear, which is like Armadillo and Anguish. So I'd have to bring valuable inventory space worth of switches to get off like a meaningful spec with some good bonuses. So my items of choice is a super combat to boost my stats, and then an amulet. So an amulet's probably the best bang for your buck in terms of like stats for a single item. Gloves are a good one, but again, I'm also wearing various gloves already, so I don't need to bring a glove switch. I already have like a good melee spec gloves. Other ones would be like a bandage chest plate or a B-ring. The chest plate would be nice because it would actually remove my Armadillo negative bonuses for the chest plate. However, the more switches I bring for just the BGS spec, then the less supplies I'm bringing each trip. So kind of go backwards on your own efficiency there. If you try too hard and bring too many switches, end up just not having any supplies for the boss fight, and then you you run out super early, so you're banking more often. It just becomes this whole rabbit hole of attempting to do all that. Working overtime. What does that mean? That's some kind of combat achievement that I do not know what it is, because it's definitely not a speed one. It's yeah, it's definitely not a speed one because that wasn't even my PB, so I don't know what that was, but I'll have to look that up real quick. Summon a thrall. Yeah, okay, so yeah, that was an example of the BGS actually hit kind of big. That was a 17 through his damage reduction. Like his defense hadn't been lowered yet, so that was probably like a 70 or a 65 or something. Like it's probably really, really heavily defense lowered right now. I'm gonna actually do what I can here to do like a little speed kill. Try to go for a PB here. Let's do a fresh pot since I'm freshly reduced there. Let's send it here. This could be a good PB. Let's make sure we lightning skip, because lightning skipping saves us some time in the fact that I don't need to waste time eating. So even though I miss like a tick or two. Oh yeah, we're actually shredding him. This could be a PB for sure. Summon a new thrall. I could actually send a blowpipe spec here just to try to get a little bit of higher DPS output. Let's go ahead and do that. Okay, that's worth it. Okay, so if we get that right, we did. Nice. So just back and forth here. Feels like I'm on the clock here. Okay, and we're good. I got everything right. Just riding out the remainder of this kill here. And I'm noodling pretty hard, unfortunately, at the last part of this kill. Hopefully we start making up for it as we are. Yeah, that should be a new PB, because I feel like that was really fast and our BGS absolutely slapped. Okay, no, it was 5 seconds off. Collection log on a mystic robe top and such. Oh, that's such a troll. I knew it wasn't anything good because there was no like colored loot beam on the ground, but yeah, that's very unfortunate. Yeah, actually I have too much loot. This is why alks are good. So yeah, definitely just use alks if you don't want to use thralls. BGS whiffs, unfortunate. But yeah, that's kind of Hydra in a nutshell. So we'll probably be doing only like another kill or something. Running out of super restores, and I don't have any more on the ground. So unless he drops some next kill, then that'll be the last of my prayer, basically. So if I'm not like recording and stuff, I typically will like pray flick. It's like right now he's switching to range. So whenever he's ranging me, I have my quick praise set to Eagle Eye and pray range. So I'll do like a ton of pray flicking when he's doing that, and then when he's maging you, since I'm not gonna change my quick pray every single time the boss switches, because that would just be very annoying. So I pray flick like half the time. Like one tick flick my quick praise, and it saves a ton of prayer. You get some really long trips in. So I typically will do that if I'm not like recording or something. If I'm just chilling and can get away with it. And yeah, do a lot of really long trips and use very little prayer per kill. Actually, with the restores that he drops, you actually just can get like too much prayer in your inventory, and yeah, you end up getting some really, really long kills, but long trips rather. So yeah, let's hopefully we get like a drop on the recording. That would be kind of cool, but it's very rare. It's a 1 in 1,000 for the claw that I'm looking for. So Unfortunately, it's going to be a grind here. Like, this is one of those long grinds. I get a Hydra task of 179. That alone is going to take multiple days, if not weeks, to slowly work through and get done. So basically, yeah, you're in for the long haul if you are an Ironman looking to get your Dragonheaded Lance. Uh, oh god, another pop up. Man, I'm just getting trolled because that was a green loot too, so it kind of trolled me. I think we can get one more trip with our prayer supplies here. Let's just eat that shark because there's like 4 on the ground. Hopefully the BGS goes in right here. And it did not go in right there. Okay, so we will fresh range pot. Try to do some prayer flicking here because I'm very low on prayer, so. Just gonna kind of hopefully save some Eagle Eye prayer when he's maging, and then there you go. So once he's ranging, I'll just double one tick pray flick my quick praise and should stay at this 61 prayer as long as I do this. I think that was the third range attack that he phase changed as well at the same moment, so I'm going to miss the visual. So that's one of those, again, instances where you have to really pay attention still, even though he does a visual. Okay, he's ranging, so let's get some good prey flicking it. And yeah, I've already saved enough prayer here. Oh, we're going to get zapped there. That's why we have the shark. But I've already conserved enough prayer in just this first half alone to where I should be good. Okay, now we get to one tick flick. And yeah, then there's also phases where he just doesn't attack as well, like what's coming up here. So I will have to pray mage for this one last hit, but then as soon as that happens, so he's going to walk to the center for the flame part. So I can just one tick flick my quick praise throughout this entire part until he starts attacking again, which is actually quite a while. So I get a lot of hits in, but then I got to return back to pray mage for when his next attack is. Yeah, the ground always looks kind of cluttered here. That's because I highlighted amethyst darts. I kind of want to know where the darts are laying around the room and such, because in between kills you have like 30 seconds. So I figured, well, my garbage Ava's device that drops darts here and there, unlike the Dragon Slayer 2 one, you know, I'll just pick up like the 1 or 2 darts that I see laying around. And so my ground items always look kind of cluttered here. Oh god, that could have been bad because I think I tanked a 0 and I don't have any food, so I would have to. Yeah, if I missed a prayer there, I was literally dead because I had 60 health and he could definitely chance me there, but I didn't miss it, so no chance, no shot. Don't even need to be eating the shark because we're telling out. We don't have any more prayer. So what's the most valuable item here? Probably just like a mystic staff. I guess there's 2 U seeds, but you can't bank everything, unfortunately. I guess I could do that and just take the U seeds. Yeah, definitely get out of the room though. He spawns very quickly and will start killing you. So yeah, watch out. And yeah, so that's Hydra. We will be closing off this recording here. Unfortunately, no drops, but it's actually just like price check the loot. So this is like one trip here, and I think I got blood runes too, which went in my pouch. So I can't even price check them as well. Tons of herbs. These bolts are kind of useless, but 90 dragon bones. Honestly, that's kind of low. Actually, it looks like there's the blood runes. I must have a full rune pouch. Yeah, so 1.6 mil in like, I don't know, what was that, like close to an hour of a trip. So Yeah, you make a couple mil per hour here in general just from the base loot, and then when you get a unique, let's see, actually look up an item here, Dragon Hunter Lance. It's 58 mil. So if you get the claw, it's basically like 50 something mil. I should actually look up the claw's price instead. Yeah, it's 52 mil. And then the leather, where is it? Hydra leather is another 10 mil. So his uniques can drop you a nice chunk of mills, and then just the average loot and alch price is like so extremely high. Definitely a boss where you'll make a ton of money. So if you're a 95 Slayer and you're trying to make GP and you're sick of doing like other bosses like Zulrah and Vorkath forever and ever, definitely give Hydra a try. It is super strong. The loot is always very consistently good. Per kill, you're gonna get like 100k. So you do about 2-minute kills. You're easily making a couple mil per hour. But yeah, that's going to kind of conclude the video. I will be seshing out some Hydra. I still have 114 on task. And then, I have over 5,000 Slayer points, so I'll most likely be just skipping every task until I get either Greater Demon or Black Demon in the Catacombs, which is what I want for Skatizo, so I can finish my Skatizo totems. Let's take a look real quick. Yeah, see, I have 40 pieces to make, and then 20, like 30. So I have like 70 Skatizo totems right here that need used. Um, that's a lot of loot, and that's just one of my 4 accounts. So I have like another 50 to 60 on each other account. So I have multiple hundreds of Skatizo to do. So I'm trying to get through those to just like get the anglers. There's like rune bars. You can get mahogany planks, so tons of useful loot, and then just stacks of like bloods and soul runes are good to just stack up. So yeah, that's the goal. And then if I run into more Hydras, I will just do more Hydra again with the 99 Slayer cape that I will bring to my Konar task. After I complete this, I have a chance to just get Hydras right again. 10% chance to just get Hydra again. So hey, 85 woodcut. So yeah, on the side, skilling and doing some woodcut, fishing, fletching while I do this, because I can't really do anything else. This is a very attention-focused boss. If you stop paying attention for just a couple seconds, you will just instantly get dropped. So yeah, being a hardcore, I have to pay attention. So anyway, thank you for sticking around through the whole video. If you made it this far, be sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel, drop a comment, and like the video if you liked it. Let me know what you guys think about the boss, and let me know what you think about just the game in general for those upcoming changes, the whole project rebalance and whatnot. I think my last video went into more detail on the whole project rebalance, so yeah, check out my other videos and check out my links in the description for my Twitch and Kick. I do sometimes stream on Kick and Twitch, so give those a follow as well if you don't mind. Thank you everybody for tuning in, and I will catch you on the next one. Peace.